What is up, Squared Nation? Welcome back to No Counters, No Combos, and today we're going to be talking some tech. But before we do so, feel free to check our link tree in the description box down below. It's going to take you to some awesome sponsors that we have for our channel, Your Playmat and Loot Crate. If you're into custom sleeves, custom playmats, or even custom foil playmats, feel free to use our coupon code at checkout for 10% off your order. You'll find the link in the description, like I said, as well as Loot Crate. If you're into subscription mystery boxes, feel free to save 15% on your subscription through Loot Crate. All the links can be accessed through the link tree, which you'll find in the description box down below. With that being said, let's get on into what we're going to be talking about today. So the meta is slowly shifting away from previous emergency banlist decks. We're kind of going into an open format. I believe there's a lot of good decks in contention. I think every color is playable at this point. Blue might be, I don't want to say at the bottom of the totem pole. Blue and green are probably towards the bottom of the totem pole, but I feel like every deck, every color has a playable strategy. One of the strategies that has been resurging as of late has been Cell Surge Hand Destruction. So what I want to talk about today is a couple of options to help mitigate, not completely counter, but help mitigate the hand destruction element to that deck. Now, obviously, it's going to take a little bit of RNG. It's going to take a little bit of the DBS gods being on your side, and it's going to also, you're going to have a strategy in order to answer the consistent disruption that your opponent's going to be able to do being Cell, and you're going to have something to put into place to kind of counter their strategy, because they're essentially just going to turtle up, and they're going to kill your hand, they're going to awaken when they feel like it, and then they're going to punish you with the skill on the backside of the awakened leader. So a couple of cards that I want to look at today. Specifically, I want to look at Super Saiyan Vegeta Majin Exterminator. Every color has gotten a counterpart to this kind of card, at least I think, except for black maybe. Basically, it's a simple card. When it's discarded by your opponent's skill, you can play it from your drop, and then when it's played, you draw a card. So it's very simple. It's a 1-for-1 type thing. If you're choosing the card that's being discarded from your hand, you get to draw a card off of it, so you get to see a new card, you get a body on board. Nothing too crazy. It's not going to be used offensively. It's only a 4K swing for Vegeta, so you're not going to be really using this proactively. It's just kind of going to help lighten the blow a little bit when it comes to hand destruction, but it's not a silver bullet by any means. It's really good that it's not limit one, because you can probably resolve multiples of these if you have them in hand per turn. So if your opponent wants to go crazy and just start ripping cards out of your hand, if they want to discard you down to like 2 or 3 cards and you have 2 or 3 of these to pitch, you're just going to go even essentially, and you're going to get 10 to 15k combo worth of power on the board. There's another card though that has been making the rounds. This is like our first ever, I guess, tech talk where we're talking about 2 completely different cards that do separate things. But Deborah Ritual at Hand, this card came out in set 13. He's a 15k attacker, 3 energy, but he also has a skill. When he's discarded, you could pay 1 and play him, and then he draws 2 cards. So what are the major differences here? Obviously, if you're playing green, or if you're playing a specific color, having your hand destruction silver bullets, so to speak, is beneficial because it doubles as chargeable energy, and it just makes it so that you don't have any wonky turns in having to charge a different color. So that's really the only benefit. Also, they're free. You don't have to really pay an energy for them, and I highly doubt your opponent is going to waste a counterplay on them, because you're only essentially drawing 1 card, and it's not an offensive threat because it's only a 4k attacker. On the other hand, we have Deborah Ritual at Hand. Ritual at Hand is going to cost you 1 energy to play. He's a 15k attacker, so he does have some offensive capabilities. And he's drawing you 2 cards. So the downside is, if you're playing a monocolored deck, you're not going to be able to charge this guy. You're not going to be able to have one sitting in energy unless you're playing in blue and you can pick it up with your Zeno Super combo. But for the most part, for 1 energy, he's going to give you a body on board and draw 2 cards. So there are merits to playing Deborah. There are pros and cons to both of these cards. But which card is better? So in my opinion, The better card, and I mean, better, objectively, everybody, has their own opinion. If you're an uber efficient player and you don't want to tap energy, reactively for something that's not going to benefit you in the long run, I can totally understand playing the Majin Vegeta or their color counterparts because they're free. But on the other end, I also understand the benefits of playing Deborah because it's going to give you a 15k offensive threat for 1 energy is not bad, and it's going to draw you 2 cards. So you're essentially plussing 1 off Deborah, where the Vegeta, you're only going even. So it just really depends on the state of game that you're in. You definitely need to be very careful when it comes to counterplay, especially if it's the draws that you're concerned. So if you're going to be playing against Cell Hand Destruction, the main counterplay you're going to have to worry about is Charismatic Villain, right? Or, I doubt that they're playing, Prideful Transformations, but if they are, that's not going to hurt you too much because all it's going to do is rest your Deborah. You're still going to draw the 2 cards, and you're still going to have the body on board that they have to deal with. But Charismatic Villain can be problematic because it's going to get rid of your Deborah. So you have to be careful, how you sequence it. You have to read the room and understand what's on the table and understand your limitations and capabilities, because the last thing you want to do is, I have an answer here to hand destruction, but I only have 1 open energy. You don't want to tap out for Deborah. That's definitely not something that I would recommend. I would not recommend tapping out for Deborah just to get those 2 cards and a body on board, unless you 100% know for a fact it's your opponent's last action. Like, if you know they have nothing else that they're going to do to you and they're just going to pass turn, like, if you're able to read them that well, then I would go ahead and do it. But everything is going to be reactive depending on where you're at in the game. So this is one of the more difficult TED Talks that we've done because, yes, they are cards that are easily available and they don't essentially counter, but they help with defending against a certain strategy. But both cards have their pro and con situations, and they depend very heavily on the game state as to when you want to play them. So I'd recommend, loading up Untap or, firing up a webcam game and just testing these out. If you're, fortunate enough to have a local scene, feel free to test something out in locals. The benefit is, obviously, they're not tied to anything. So, if you're playing the free versions of them, they're all color coded. So every color has one except for black. If you're playing Deborah doesn't have to be tied to a black leader. He can be played in any deck. So there's really no cons to playing them. It just depends on what you want to do. Now, is there a world where you can play both Deborah and your specified color option? Maybe. It really depends, because you're talking about 8 slots that you're taking up in your deck for a hand destruction counter. So maybe there's a world where that exists. Small disclaimer, if you don't play a deck that cycles or sees cards or draws cards very well, then I would lean more towards the specific color coded variant, because if you're not going to draw into your pieces as quickly as you would want to, if you do end up dead drawing it, you want to be able to do something with it. So if you end up dead drawing a Deborah and you can't play it, or it's just useless in your matchup, you're not going to be able to charge it if you're playing a monocolored strategy, unless obviously you don't care about having black energy. But if you do care about having all mono-specific energy, you're not going to charge that Deborah, so he's at worst just going to be a free 5k combo. But if you're playing the 1-drop counterparts that are free, at least they're color-coded specifically to your energy. So worst case scenario, if you dead draw one late game, you can always charge it. And getting an energy is, in my opinion, is 100% better than having a free 5k combo in your hand. Obviously, it's a resource-based game, so if you can freely charge, or if you have a designated charge that's going to get you an extra energy, by all means do so. But this is one of the more advanced tech talks I've done, just simply because there's a lot of different ways to go about it. If you're really, really concerned about hand destruction, obviously these are good options, but the best option against hand destruction is just to try to aggro them out as soon as possible. And the new SS4 archetype that we got in the anniversary box does have ways of interacting and warping cards out of your opponent's drop area. So that might be something beneficial, I think Shroom and Salsa is a really hard counter to hand destruction, especially if they're worrying about, you know, Ribriands and stuff like that in the drop area, because you'll just be able to get rid of them. So it might be something that's open for experimentation. If you feel like hand destruction is going to run the meta, there's a lot of different options for you to experiment with. I don't think hand destruction is going to be 100% like the meta. Like, it's a top tier strategy for sure, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's gonna be like tier 0 or anything like that. I think we're in a really good spot right now. I think there's a lot of room for experimentation, and it just depends on how you want to approach it. Real quick, I just want to shout out everybody who is going to be traveling to Gen Con this weekend. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to go. I wasn't planning on going, but I'm actually glad that we're having an in real life event for Dragon Ball Super, because a lot of people are concerned about, you know, the health of the game when it comes to IRL events. So just quick shout out to everybody who's going to be traveling this weekend. Stay safe, please. That's the most important thing. You know, come back all to us in one piece, and I hope that you guys have an awesome experience, and I hope the turnout is really good, because we definitely need a shot in the arm, you know, as far as in real life events are concerned. We need to run smoothly. We need everybody's health to be taken into consideration, but we also need numbers so that we can show that we have a strong community, and we want in real life events to come back sooner rather than later. So let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and please hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything No Counters, No Combos. We really do appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Be there or be squared.